Look, I want to start with something that's going to sound harsh. Ready? Most of you watching this video are doing things right now that are actively destroying your ability to build wealth. Not because you're lazy, not because you're dumb, but because you were taught a version of money that was wrong, or incomplete, or designed to keep you spending. And here's the thing, the gap between people who become wealthy and people who don't is rarely income. I need you to hear that. It is almost never about how much money comes in. It's about these 7 behaviors, 7 specific avoidable things. So if you're ready to actually change your financial life, not just feel good for 10 minutes and then go back to doing the same stuff, stick with me. Because what I'm about to show you is going to make some of you genuinely uncomfortable. What's up, everyone? So today, we're talking about the 7 things you need to stop doing if you want to build real wealth. And I want to be upfront about something. This is not a stop buying coffee video. I am not going to tell you that a $6 latte is the reason you're broke. That's lazy advice, and you deserve better than lazy advice. What I am going to do is walk you through the actual behavioral and psychological traps that keep middle-class people stuck, and show you the math behind why they're so devastating. Because when you see the numbers, it hits different. Let's get into it. Avoiding debt education while misusing good debt logic. Here's what most people don't realize about debt. And I mean most people, including people who consider themselves financially literate. There's this concept floating around that debt is either good or bad. Good debt builds wealth, like a mortgage or a business loan. Bad debt destroys it, like credit cards. And that framework? It's not wrong exactly. It's just dangerously incomplete. Because here's what happens. People hear mortgages are good debt, and they buy a $600,000 house on a 30-year loan at 7% interest when they're making $75,000 a year, and they feel smart about it. They feel financially responsible. Let me show you the actual math on that. Lifestyle inflation, the silent wealth killer. Okay, this one is the one that gets people who think they have it figured out. You got a raise. Congratulations. You went from making $60,000 a year to $80,000 a year. That's a 33% increase in income. That's incredible. So why, 2 years later, does it feel like you have exactly the same amount of money? This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is ruthless. Here's how it plays out, almost universally. You get the raise, you upgrade your apartment, maybe $300 more per month. You get a nicer car, maybe $250 more per month in payments. You start going out to nicer restaurants because, hey, you've earned it. You upgrade your wardrobe. Your vacations get a little more expensive. Every individual decision feels reasonable, even responsible. You're treating yourself. You worked hard. But here's what the math actually looks like. That $20,000 raise, after taxes, nets you roughly $14,000 in additional annual income, about $1,167 a month. If your lifestyle upgrades total $700 a month, which is conservative, you're left with $467 in actual additional savings capacity. But most people are spending the entire raise and then some. Here's what most people don't realize. If instead you saved and invested that entire $14,000 per year for 20 years at a modest 8% return, that's over $640,000 from one raise. And this is where it gets really interesting. The psychological mechanism behind lifestyle inflation is called hedonic adaptation. It's the scientifically documented fact that humans return to a baseline level of happiness after almost any positive change. Your new apartment feels amazing for 3 months, and then it just feels like home. The upgrade gave you a temporary hit, and now you're chasing the next one. The wealthiest people I've studied, not the flashy ones, the actually wealthy ones, treat raises like raises for their investment accounts, not for their lifestyles. Prioritizing looking wealthy over being wealthy. I'm going to say something and I need you to not get defensive, okay? A significant number of people driving luxury cars cannot actually afford those cars. I'm not guessing. The data on this is pretty clear. According to multiple consumer finance studies, a large portion of luxury vehicle owners are lease dependent, meaning the moment they stop making payments, the car disappears. And it's not just cars, it's the watch, the designer bag, the vacations posted on Instagram, the I deserve this purchases. Look, I'm not saying you can never have nice things. I'm saying there's an order of operations, and most people have it completely backwards. Here's a story. There's a famous concept from Thomas Stanley's research in The Millionaire Next Door, the idea that the people in your neighborhood who look the richest are statistically often the least wealthy. The wealthy family is in the modest house, driving a used Honda and quietly building a portfolio that would make your jaw drop. The family in the mansion with the least Porsche? They're one job loss away from a crisis. The psychological trap here is what researchers call conspicuous consumption, spending money specifically because others can see it. And social media has turned this into a 24/7 arms race that most people are fighting with money they don't have. And here's the really uncomfortable part. Every dollar you spend performing wealth is a dollar that could have been becoming wealth. Those are not the same thing, not even close. The shift you need to make is from asking, "What does this say about me?" to "What does this do for me?" Those are two completely different questions, and only one of them builds a future. Neglecting to invest early, the compounding catastrophe. This one has math so powerful it almost feels illegal, so I want to walk through it slowly. Meet two people. Let's call them Sarah and Marcus. Sarah starts investing $400 a month at age 25. She does it for 10 years, then stops completely. Never adds another dollar. Total invested, $48,000. Marcus doesn't start until 35, but he invests $400 a month for 30 years straight until he's 65. Total invested, $144,000, 3 times as much as Sarah. At 65, assuming an 8% average annual return, which is actually conservative for a diversified index fund portfolio, Sarah has approximately $1.1 million. Marcus has approximately $585,000. Sarah invested less money, stopped earlier, and ended up with almost double the wealth. Now you might be thinking, "Brian, I'm already 35, or 40, or 45. Is it too late?" And I need to be honest with you. You've lost some of the most powerful compounding years. That's real. But here's what's also real. The second best time to start is today, and the math still works in your favor for decades if you begin now. Here's what most people don't realize about why they don't invest early. It doesn't feel urgent. Retirement is 40 years away. The threat isn't visceral. You can't see the opportunity cost of not investing. You can see the $400. You can feel what it would feel like to have it. The future wealth is invisible. This is why human brains are terrible at this without structure. Our threat detection system runs on immediacy, and compound interest is the opposite of immediate. The fix? Automate it. The moment you have to make a decision to invest, you'll often make the wrong one. Remove the decision, set up automatic contributions, and let your brain forget that money exists. Having only one income stream. Here's the thing about a single income. It's not just a financial risk, it's a negotiating trap. When your entire livelihood depends on one employer, one client, or one source, you lose. Almost all the leverage in any compensation conversation belongs to the person who has options. The employee who needs the job will always be paid less than the employee who doesn't. According to IRS data on high-income earners, millionaires have an average of 7 income streams. 7. And those aren't all passive, magical income sources. They're combinations of earned income, business income, rental income, dividends, interest, royalties, and capital gains. Now here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying you need to start 5 businesses tomorrow. That's not the move. The move is deliberate, sequential diversification. Start with one side income. Even $300 a month in additional income invested for 20 years at 8% is over $170,000. It's not the money, it's what the money becomes with time. And the psychological benefit that nobody talks about? When you have another income stream, your primary income negotiation changes. You feel less desperate. You take fewer bad deals. You leave toxic jobs sooner. The financial security has psychological ripple effects that are worth as much as the income itself. Look, none of this is complicated. The math works. The strategies are documented. The information exists. The reason most people aren't wealthy isn't that they don't know where they're going. It's that the path requires doing uncomfortable things today for rewards that feel distant and abstract. Wealth is built in the gap between what you feel like doing and what you know you should do. 7 traps. That gap is where every single one of them lives. Now you see them. You can choose differently. If this hit home, share it with someone who needs it, and drop a comment. Which one hit you the hardest? I read every single one. See you in the next one.